Tonight is Monday night, and it is March 29th, and we are at the campaign event that Jack Kimball just concluded, a combination campaign, rally, and tea party type event, because you're being a little bit different, Jack, in that as you're going along, you're trying to start up new tea party type groups, new 9/12 project type groups, wherever you go. So it's not just all about you, is it?
Not at all. I think that what we have to do is get as many people involved right now in the process as possible. And I firmly believe it isn't all about me. We got to take our country back. We got to take our state back. And so what I'm trying to do is get out there and meet as many new faces as I can and talk to them about what's going on in our country and get them motivated to get involved.
Okay. We certainly heard a lot of what you said earlier on the different issues of the day, and you had a fair number of good questions that were asked, but let me take a run off of a couple of them. One of the things here in New Hampshire is that it's really a weak governor setup, and one of the things that when you become elected, you're allowed to smile.
Yes.
You're going to be facing an entrenched bureaucracy and department heads that have a fair amount of power and longevity that in other states the governor gets to appoint otherwise. My question to you, you've got a lot of good ideas, you have certainly strong ideas of what you want to do. How would you be able to deal with that bureaucracy, especially in the case where you've said that you think that government needs to shrink in size, that we are spending too much, and that really means if we're spending too much, government is too big?
Well, you know, Skip, it's not going to be easy. I'm very realistic about that. But I firmly believe if we can take back the Executive Council and we can take back control of the State House and the Senate, and if we don't get the Senate, at least come closer, that's the step in the right direction. But the second thing I'll say is this. We have to have a sea change in the thought process that goes on in government in general. And I would like to think that I can at least get up in front of a lot of these legislators and give them food for thought and be persuasive. I think I do have good ideas. I think they're worth a try. And I think that what we've got to do is convince Republicans and Democrats alike that we have to shrink government. It's unsustainable what we're doing now, both in the states and in our country. And I think that we really do have to take the handcuffs off of the small business sector, of which I'm part of right now, and allow them to really elicit the economic change in a positive way, increase employment in the state of New Hampshire, and provide the impetus and the catalyst that is so needed, that shot in the arm that we need in the state of New Hampshire insofar as job creation, purchases of goods and services and so forth that we don't have. I have to try and use that pulpit, if you will, to convince people that this is the proper way to go. We'll see what happens. It's very difficult, I know, to change traditional minds, but these are difficult times.
Now, one of the things that the Grok is always in favor of is a review of what is the proper role of government. And one of the themes that you brought up tonight was it is becoming to be non-business friendly here in the state. In fact, it's almost becoming anti-business. And one of the things that happened with the LLC tax is that we had Andy Sanborn, who was the owner of the draft in Concord, stand up during the LLC protest and started to list all of the taxes and fees and other regulations that were costing him money as a restaurant owner. It turned out to be more than 10% of revenues just to satisfy the government. You yourself are a small business owner, a service organization. How do you go about telling state government you're killing the businesses? What would you do to the regulation environment here in the state to make it more business friendly again?
Well, you know, you heard one of the gentlemen here tonight bring up the issue about regulation and how difficult it is in the state of New Hampshire. And it is. I mean, we're over-regulated as businesses. You have to go through so many permitting approvals and the permitting process and so forth. But the other thing is this. I'm a service-oriented business. The restaurant business, by the way, after I was there when Andy gave his talk, and I think everyone in that room was shocked as to the level of permits and taxes that were elicited upon just him in that restaurant business and all other restaurateurs. But for me, I'm a labor-intensive business. So the business enterprise tax is very egregious to me. It's based on payroll. I'm penalized, actually. Workman's compensation is based on payroll. When you think about that, every person I hire, I wind up paying additional taxation of monies for the sheer fact that I hired them. That's ridiculous. We have a business profits tax of 8.5%. That's a big tax for small businesses. And now we have the LLC tax. All of these things focus directly on the engine that drives this economy. And if you're business unfriendly, what's going to happen? They're going to leave. They're moving out. And so isn't the employment. It's moving as well.
Okay, you've talked about the financial impact because of the BET and all of that. But what about the regulation environment? What would you do as governor? What would be some of the steps that you would take to tell the different departments, enough? How would you would you add more regulations, leave it the way it is, tell them to take away, and if the latter, how would you go about doing that?
Well, one of the things that has to happen, of course I would take away, I want to reduce regulations on all of the, you've got tradesmen here, electricians and plumbers. We've got to take the handcuffs off of small businessmen. The way you do that, though, is you go through all of the regulations, and by the way, feedback from very involved tradesmen like that were here tonight is, I think, essential. You just put them in a room and you say, okay, where are the roadblocks? What are the problems? And you make sure that you take note of all of them. You then take that data, you go back to the department heads, and you present this issue to them. And basically, because I'm a private sector guy, I will basically tell them, look, we have got to absolutely reduce the roadblocks in front of these people, and I'll tell them X, Y, and Z. We want to get rid of those if we can. We've got to minimize regulation all across the board and try to change the way we're doing these fees and taxes that they're eliciting now, and the permitting process is nothing but stifle business.
How many regulations do we have? For instance, and let me give you the context of the question. When people talk about the federal tax code, they say it's like 40,000 pages or whatever the number is. Do you happen to know how big of a number that is here in New Hampshire? If you don't, would you find out and report back to the GROK and then let me know what you would do with that amount of regulation?
Geez, Skip, you're giving me a homework assignment.
I expect my politicians to do their homework.
I would be glad to do that. It would be an interesting mission. So I promise I'll do that. Don't give me a time frame. I'll get it done for you, and as soon as I get the data, I'll let you know.
And how fast, by what percentage would you start decreasing those regulations?
See, that's a tough one because we don't know exactly how many we have. It's hard for me to answer that. I'm not going to answer that now. I won't fall into that trap, even for this guy.
Okay. And hopefully we'll meet up again later on in the trail, and I'll give you a question that I will ask at that time. So I'll give you some time to think about it. One of the primary questions at GraniteGrok is always, what is the proper role of government? And my question to you will be, has the state overstepped the proper role of government vis-a-vis the towns, the cities, and the counties? And how is the federal government impacting the proper role of what it should be doing versus the state as a whole? So again, trying to get the bigger picture from Jack Kimball for the readers of the GROK. Okay. And with that, I thank you very much.
And thank you, Skip, always.
Okay.